everyone, and welcome back to another fantastic episode of Bedtime Stories with Yash, where I, Yash Sharma, reads you two new stories every single evening. Now, remember that I'd given out a giveaway in the previous video. In that giveaway, I had mentioned that you can get a chance to win either the Seven Wonders flashcard set or the Solar System flashcard set, which are both designed and printed at Yashshree. So today is a wonderful day and I'm going to announce the winner of this giveaway. So the winner of this giveaway is Savi More from First Standard. I want all of you to please applaud for her. Thank you so much, Savi. If you're listening to this, thank you so much for participating in my giveaway. I will be giving you a call tonight to discuss how you're going to come and pick these flashcards up for yourself. Let's start with today's video. Today, we are going to read the final story from book number 2. And we are going to finish 2 more stories from the other book. So we are going to read 3 stories in total today. Okay. So like always, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, I request you to do so by clicking on the subscribe button under this video. I've also posted links to the school's social media, which is Facebook and Instagram pages, in the description box. You can go and click on those links and follow the school's Facebook and Instagram pages. Thank you so much. Now let's begin with today's stories. The Pandit's Mother Tongue. Once a Pandit came to the court of the Emperor Akbar. Addressing the court, he said, "I challenge you to find what my mother tongue is. If you fail to do so, you will have to accept defeat." Now there was a Pandit who had come to Emperor Akbar's court and he challenged everyone. He challenged them to find out what his mother tongue was. Mother tongue is the language that you speak at home. The courtiers asked the Pandit many questions in different languages, but the Pandit answered them in the language in which he was asked. He spoke all the languages as fluently as one speaks his own mother tongue. None of the courtiers could find out what the Pandit's mother tongue was. Finally, he said to Akbar, "I give you 7 days to find out my mother tongue. Do you accept the challenge?" Akbar looked at Birbal. Birbal nodded in approval. Akbar said, "Yes, we accept your challenge." So, when nobody could identify the mother tongue of the Pandit, it came on to Birbal. The Pandit was staying at an inn in the city. That night, when he was fast asleep, Birbal quietly entered his room. He tickled the Pandit's ear with a blade of dry grass. He tickled the Pandit's ear. उसने उसके कानों में गुदगुदी की एक ग्रास के पत्ती के साथ. The Pandit was disturbed, but he went off to sleep again. Once again, Birbal tickled his ear. Now the Pandit was wide awake. He got up and shouted angrily in Gujarati, "Hey, who is it? Why are you disturbing my sleep?" So this is the Pandit and Birbal who is tickling his ear with a blade of dry grass. He got down from his bed and looked around. Birbal was hiding himself in the room, but the Pandit did not notice him. The Pandit went back to sleep. Quietly, Birbal left the room and went home. On the 7th day, the court assembled. The Pandit was present there. Birbal spoke to the Pandit in different languages. He said to Akbar, "Your Majesty, this Pandit's mother tongue is Gujarati." The Pandit was astonished. How did Birbal come to know? He accepted defeat and left the court. Akbar said, "Tell me, Birbal, how did you find out the Pandit's mother tongue?" Birbal said, "Very simple, Your Majesty. A man will speak his mother tongue either when he is in distress or when he is suddenly woken up from deep sleep." Birbal then told the court about his secret visit to the inn and explained how he had found out what the Pandit's mother tongue was. The courtiers admired Birbal for his wisdom. Akbar was also pleased, and then he rewarded Birbal with his most valuable necklace. So this is the scene where Akbar is speaking to Birbal and the Pandit has accepted defeat. Okay, so that was the end of story number 1, and which was also the final story in this book, Birbal the Wise number 2. Let's begin with another story for the evening, which is from the book Birbal the Wise number 3, Birbal's Babysitting. One day, Birbal was late for court. Akbar asked him, "Birbal, why are you late today?" Birbal said, "Your Majesty, I had to babysit today. The emperor was surprised. Birbal added, babysitting is the most difficult job in this world, Your Majesty. When one is at this job, one just cannot do anything on time. Akbar said confidently, Birbal, actually, it is very easy to coax children. Give them a toy to play with or something to eat, and your job is done. So one day, Birbal was late to the court. Now, Akbar asked, Birbal, why are you late today? So Birbal said, Your Majesty, I had to look after the baby. I had to babysit. That means take care of the baby. And then he adds on that babysitting is the most difficult job in this whole wide world. Then Akbar said, Birbal, it is very easy to coax children. It is very easy to fool children. It is very easy to put their attention into something else. Give them a toy to play with or give them something to eat, and your job is done. Birbal said, Your Majesty, it is easy for you to say because you have never had the experience of babysitting. Try it once and you will realize what I am saying. I will now pretend to be a small child. I want Your Majesty to try to coax me. So Birbal said, Your Majesty, it's so easy for you to say because you have never done any babysitting in your life. Now I will pretend to act like a baby and then you try to coax me. So this is the scene where Akbar is sitting on his throne and Birbal is speaking to him and he is going to act like a child now. The emperor agreed. Birbal began to howl like a small child. He cried, Father, I want milk. Akbar ordered milk. After drinking it, Birbal said, Father, I want to eat sugarcane. Akbar asked his attendant to bring a stalk of sugarcane and cut it into small pieces. But Birbal refused to take them. Instead, he continued to cry loudly and demanded, I want the whole stick. Akbar was now annoyed. He lost his patience and shouted angrily, Eat this quietly. Is it possible to make a whole stalk out of small pieces? But Birbal refused to listen to him. He went on crying loudly. Finally, Akbar asked his attendant to bring one more stalk of sugarcane. Birbal still continued crying. I want you to make a whole stalk of these small pieces. Now, see, Birbal is acting really funny. Birbal began to howl like a small child. He began to make noise, wah, 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 like a small child. Father, I want milk. And Akbar ordered milk. He said, I want to eat sugarcane. Then he asked one attendant to bring a sugarcane stalk, that means a big stick of sugarcane, and cut it into small pieces. But then Birbal said, I want the whole sugarcane. Then Akbar finally, when he had lost all his patience, he asked his attendant to bring another stalk of sugarcane. But he said, No, father, I want you to make a whole sugarcane from the small pieces that you had cut earlier. The emperor was confused and furious. He shouted, Is anybody out there? Take this boy away from here. And Birbal bursted out laughing. Akbar confessed, babysitting is indeed a very tough job. So this is how Birbal made it clear for Akbar that babysitting is the toughest job in the whole wide world. So this is Birbal the boy over here and Akbar holding a whole sugarcane stalk, and there is the sugarcane that was initially cut there in the bowl. Okay, so that was the end of story number 2. Let's go to story number 3 for the evening. The Forgotten Promise. One day, Akbar was quite pleased with Birbal's wit and wisdom. He promised to give him 100 acres of land as a gift. Many days passed since then, but Akbar did not fulfill his promise. Birbal would often remind Akbar of his promise, but Akbar always ignored that topic. He would turn his head and look into the other direction, and pretended as if he had not heard anything. So, Akbar once he had forgotten a promise. When he was pleased, he promised to give Birbal 100 acres of land as a gift. But then Birbal often tried to remind Akbar, but he did not pay attention to this reminder. And he always used to look in the other direction, pretending that he has not heard anything. Days passed. One evening, Akbar and Birbal went for a walk. They saw a camel coming towards them from the opposite direction. Akbar looked at the camel and said, Tell me, Birbal, why is the neck of the camel crooked? Birbal said, Your Majesty, the camel was an emperor in his last birth. One day, he was so pleased with his wazir that he promised to give him 100 acres of land as a gift. Now, Akbar was very interested in the story. He said, "Well, what happened then? Tell me more." Birbal continued, "The emperor forgot his promise. Whenever the Wazir reminded him of his promise, the emperor would turn his neck and look in the other direction. Since then, he has a crooked neck." So Birbal, who was very smart, he made up a story to remind Akbar of his promise that he had forgotten or intentionally forgotten. So this is the camel, and Akbar and Birbal standing and talking about the camel over there. Akbar did not believe Birbal's story. He said, "That is impossible." Birbal said, "Why not? Believe me, your majesty. Whenever the Wazir reminded the emperor of his promise, he turned his neck and looked in the other direction. In anger, the Wazir cursed the emperor that in his next birth he would be a camel and his neck would always remain crooked." Birbal had played his cards well. After hearing Birbal's story, Akbar felt embarrassed. He realized that he had forgotten his promise. The following day, Akbar gave Birbal the promised gift of land. So that was the end of story number 3. I hope you liked all the stories. Let me know in the comments below which is your favorite story out of these 3. Okay, and I'll see you in the next episode of Bedtime Stories with Yash. Bye bye.